So colleagues are taking a seat. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the press conference dedicated to the start of the Albanian presidency of the Security Council for the month of September 2023. With us here today, we have the President of the Council, Ambassador Ferit Hoxha, I will invite first the Ambassador to take the floor to brief you on the program of work during the month. Then we will take questions as per usual. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon to all. I hope you're not too tired. You've had already 2 sessions. So let's try having a third one. But first, let me warmly welcome you to this briefing of our second and last presidency of the Council. It's a particular month. It's September. But before we go there, let me say that it's a pleasure to have this opportunity to share highlights of our plan for the work of the Council. And this is part of our efforts to be as efficient and transparent during the month. And I look forward to being in touch and, of course, also working with you. Now, September is a month where the world beams in New York. And it really has implications also on the work of the Council. And during the week, we'll try to really squeeze the work of the Council to the most minimum possible, but there will be some meetings as well. We will have 2 signature events during this month, and I would like to say a few words on both of them, because they are very particular to us, and I hope they will prove to be so also for the wider membership and, of course, the public opinion. The first meeting is a signature event in the form of open debate, because we are very much attached to the transparency and we want to involve as much as possible the wider membership. That's why we have chosen the format of open debate. And on 14th of September, the Foreign Minister of Albania will chair a meeting on the private-public partnership on humanitarian aid. Now, that may seem as just a meeting on humanitarian aid. It is not, and I'll explain why. During our time in the Council, we have participated in so many meetings with special focus on humanitarian assistance worldwide. And what we see many times is this unfortunate situation when needs are not met, where resources are not enough, and when people in dire need are unfortunately not assisted. Not that the UN does a bad job. I would say that one of the most fantastic and noble jobs that the UN does is assisting everyone in need. But the fact is that not everyone has had the chance to really have that possibility. So we have asked ourselves the question, so why first, and how can we do better? Why is the natural question. And there are many factors. Of course, sometimes it's not possible, sometimes it's difficult to reach, sometimes resources foreseen arrive too late, and so on and so on. But then, can we do differently? And this is what we have done during a year, working with some Council members, some UN members, but also some external partners, and in particular, the Schmidt Futures. We've been working with them to try to mobilize in a better way the private resources. Because we see that in a world that gets richer and richer, the needs are higher and higher. So it's not just the contribution of the member states. We need to really enlarge the radius of contributions. And we started by asking different corporates, different private sectors, major companies and industries in the United States, can you do more? And every one of them we asked said, yes, of course, we want to do more. We can raise money. We can either by financial resources or in-kind contributions, but all the time they say, we don't know why, how, whom to contact, and so on and so on. So we came up with the idea, then let's get organized on this. And we will be announcing on the 14th, so my minister will be announcing on the 14th, the creation of the Private Sector Humanitarian Alliance. The Private Sector Humanitarian Alliance. That will be a platform where major corporations will come together, and it will be managed by them, and try to mobilize resources and have a bridge with the current system of the UN and international partners on delivering humanitarian aid, and see how they can bring value added, more resources, more means, especially in the early times of crisis when we know that the needs are really acute, that sometimes the organization is messy, and with time and probably the inability to react fast, lives of the people are in danger. So this is the focus of the meeting on the 14th, and we expect to have a large discussion. There will be questions, we'll try to answer them, but also we'll take the feedback and see how we can go back to the working group and the platform to which we're part of. The second event will happen during the high-level week. We will use the day of 20 September to have a particular meeting on a particularly important topic. And that topic is to uphold the goals and principles of the UN Charter through effective multilateralism, with a special focus on the maintenance of peace and security in Ukraine. We all know, since February 2022, the ongoing war in Ukraine has not only shattered the lives in Ukraine, has not only had consequences for Ukraine and Russia, but has had numerous and diverse consequences for the countries of the region, for the European architecture at large, but also has had consequences and ripple effects worldwide. Food security or insecurity, trade, and of course multilateral work and efforts are seriously affected. We want to use the presence of the leaders in town to have a meaningful discussion in the Council at the level of heads of delegation, not only to analyze the situation and the ongoing war and consequence in Ukraine, but also the prospects, where we go from now, what can be done, including peace initiatives that have been proposed here and there, and peace initiatives, of course, and on my national capacity, I would say that we favor a just peace that is in conformity with the UNGA resolution adopted earlier. So this is what we plan for the 20 September. That meeting will be chaired by the Prime Minister of Albania, and we expect other delegations in the Council and outside the Council to be represented at the level of heads of delegation. During the month, there will be other meetings as well. On the 21st, the Foreign Minister of Albania will chair an informal interactive dialogue with the Council, with the League of Arab States. It is a mandate that derives from a PRST adopted earlier. And the Troika of the Arab Summit, Saudi Arabia, Algeria, and Bahrain are, together with the Secretary General of the League of Arab States, will be participating in that meeting with the Council. During the month, there are quite a number of mandated meetings, and either in the format of briefings or consultations on the Middle East, particularly focused on the 2334 resolution regarding Israeli settlements, Syria chemical weapons, Syria political and humanitarian situation, Yemen, Afghanistan, DRC, Sudan, and South Sudan. And as we know, we start with a plan of work and we end up with another one, because the uneasy world of ours is not short of unexpected issues and concerns, and we expect to have other meetings upon request of one or more member states, as it happens all the time. We already anticipate a couple of meetings and we have provided contingency, but of course we'll inform you as the information comes up. I mentioned that we will be striking, I hope, what we see as a right balance between open meetings, which of course are part of our transparency efforts, but also consultations, which are always a useful tool for the Council to engage into a more meaningful, direct and informal discussions. And we fully concur with the need for the Council to engage more into negotiations in order to finding common ground on very complex issues. We expect 2 or 3 adoptions. 2 are already in the plan of work. It's about UNITAD and the Security Council Resolution 2240 on IRINI, so the naval mandate on Libya. But we also anticipate that, and I think the Council will very soon start negotiating a text on Haiti. We expect as next week to start, but we'll see how the process will go. Now, it is important for us because we chair the IWG, and although it's not a signature event, but we will also be organizing the annual debate on the working methods of the Security Council. We are very keen to that process, not only because we chair, but also because of the importance it has for the Council and for the wider membership. So we will be very faithful to the implementation of Note 507 and subsequent notes, including the 2 notes that were adopted during our chairmanship of the IWG. As we have done previously, not only during our presidency last June, but also during our work and tenure in the Council so far, we remain extremely attached to the shared commitments on women, peace and security agenda. And we will be very happy to continue our practice in inviting civil society briefers. And whenever it is possible, we will privilege the presence of women from the ground. This is important, not to make any discrimination with men, but we think that civil society led by women and women on the front line is something that we encourage. And we want to promote it. And of course, if we have to choice, we prefer women as briefers for the Security Council. Now, I might like to stop here, and of course, I'm available for comments and questions as.
Thank you, Ambassador. You all know the drills. Anka goes first. Please, Valeria, for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ambassador, and on behalf of Anka, we wish you the best of luck for the month ahead. So, regarding Valeria Robeco from ANSA Newswire, regarding the meeting on Ukraine during the high-level week, can you elaborate a little bit more? Like, are you expecting what is the level of high-level participation that you expect? We hear that President Zelensky can be present in person in New York. Can you confirm? If you can give us a little bit more detail. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. The thing that I can confirm is that my Prime Minister will be in town, and he will be leading that meeting, so that's for sure. The second thing that I can almost confirm, but of course it doesn't depend on me, is that President Zelensky will be in New York. It will be the first time that he comes to New York. It will be the first time that he comes to the UN, and it will be the first time that he comes to the Security Council. President Zelensky has participated earlier in the work of the Council through VTC, and it's the first time that he might participate, and I think he will participate in the Council. So we expect, as I said, to use the presence of world leaders to have that particular meeting on Ukraine and the consequences of the war for the UN, for the Charter, for international law, and for the world, for those in need, for those who need food on the table, and for those who want to see peace, want to see the end of this war, the end of aggression, and see peace. So that's the meaning behind the organization of this meeting. We expect the participation at the heads of delegation. We are in touch, of course, with every member of the Council. I think it's a little bit early to really have firm confirmation because for someone who has dealt for years in trying to build the agenda of my president and prime minister, I know that it changes all the time. And when you're sure of something, you really have to look twice. But I'm sure that meeting is important for all, and we will have a real summit on Ukraine, which, by the way, has not happened since the start of the war.
Thank you. I see Michelle, please.
Thank you, Ambassador. Michelle Nichols from Reuters. Just a quick follow-up. So you're saying the Ukrainians have at least tentatively confirmed that the president will be here and will attend the Security Council meeting? And then a follow-up on your other signature event. What corporations might be attending the council meeting, and what corporations might take part or be a member of the platform that you referenced?
I know that Zelensky has already a scheduled meeting with the Secretary General, so so we will, of course, I mean, we will see. It's not for me to say if he will come or not, but we have seen that he has traveled in many places. So I think it's time that President Zelensky also came to New York, but of course it's up to the Ukrainians, and it will certainly depend also on the situation on the ground. But I think the importance of that meeting could not be highlighted more. As to the meeting, open debate on the private partnership, public-private partnership and humanitarian issues, we have already a number of big corporate organizations, private sector, philanthropy, all based on the US, by the way, so far, big multinationals who are part of the alliance. We will have the CEO of MasterCard that will be a briefer. We will have Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google now and co-founder of Schmidt Futures, who will be briefing as well. And we expect to really have some between 15 to 18 big corporate representatives in the room. Of course, they will not be speaking, they will not be participating, they will be following because they are interested. And that's what we call the core group. So it is a moment when we will launch the idea, which of course will be consolidated as time goes by.
Thank you. The next question to Sherwin.
Thanks, Ambassador. Sherwin Bryce, please, South African Broadcasting. Just back to the September 20th meeting. We've heard, focus on the UN Charter in relation to Ukraine. We've had meetings of this nature before. So I wonder what will really be substantially different in this session. Would you be, for example, requesting President Cyril Ramaphosa, who led an African peace mission to Ukraine, to come and brief? What's the forward-looking nature of this meeting in terms of moving towards a peace negotiation? That seems to be the next step yet, because we've had discussions in the Council about upholding the UN Charter, and those discussions haven't moved the process forward at all.
Thank you. I mean, we have had many meetings on Ukraine, of course, but I mean, there hasn't been any meeting at the level of heads of states and government, so that will certainly make a difference on this issue. And of course, the President of South Africa and others are absolutely welcome. We know that peace initiatives have been made. We know that there have been visits, discussions, but we do not know everything. So I'm sure that will be the moment to also know a little bit from their side. So how they think, what are the efforts, and in how it has been received from sides. And I think it's absolutely a golden opportunity to have almost all those who think not only that they can express a position, but also those who think that they can make a contribution in trying to bridge this huge, terrible, big divide that is the war. That's why we have organized an open debate, so that we do not limit just to a number of. Unfortunately, when we have a briefing, you have to, for obvious reasons, you have to limit to 5, 7, or 10 countries. We're not limiting that. We're open for everyone. Whoever thinks that they should participate, they have something to say, they have something to contribute, this will be a moment. So that's the value added of this meeting at that level on that topic.
Thank you. Abdul Hamid Sayam from the Arabic Daily Al-Quds Al-Arabi. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving us this opportunity to talk to you. And after your experience twice with the presidency now. And I want to ask you, how can the Security Council gain the trust of the people, seeing the failures, one failure after the other? Security Council failed the people of Afghanistan, the people of Myanmar, the people of Sudan, the people of Libya, the people of Yemen, the people of Syria, and most importantly, the people of Palestine. They keep talking about two-state solution, two-state solution. And you know, and I know, that Israel is taking the land day in and day out, and nothing left to create an independent, contiguous, sovereign Palestinian state. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. I will respond on my national capacity, because I don't have a position of the Council on that. And my national capacity, the response on my national capacity is, yes, I share your frustration. Yes, you are right. The Security Council, any time the Security Council is blocked, is taken hostage, is vetoed. And every time when that happens, the Security Council fails those it has committed to help, be it in the Middle East or elsewhere. So I fully share that frustration. I wish we had the answer. We don't have the answer. That's why it has been more than 30 years that we have a process of reform of Security Council, and it's not going anywhere because we cannot agree on any of the 5 clusters. So it is a desperate situation. It's not the best one. But we know also that in diplomacy, things do not come immediately. They do not come up front, and sometimes they come even in the most unexpected times. And for that, we need to continue. For that, we need to really do what we can do best. This is what Albania has been doing. This is what my country has been doing on those issues of importance in principle, but also in concrete terms. One thing is sure. The Security Council is not in its best moment these days. And it reflects a world, a divided, a fragmented world. That's what we see in the Council as well. But until we have something else, we have to stick to the Council and its ability. Because when the Council comes together, it saves lives. It really provides issues, paths, avenues to solve issues. I wish the Security Council did this every day because it works every day. And when it doesn't happen, I can only share your regret and frustration. And I'm one of the frustrated that many times I've seen the Council blocked on important issues when what is expected, what is wanted, what is needed is the contrary. But I don't have the formula.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. One follow-up on the Ukraine meeting on the 20th. So does that mean it's going to be open to every world leader who's going to be here, which means this meeting could go on not only all day, but into a second day? And because I'm guessing that lots and lots of them would like to speak. And my question is, we all know Ukraine is going to be the major topic, the war, at the upcoming gathering of world leaders. But what other issues do you believe are going to be and going to dominate this year's meeting?
Now, we want, as I mentioned a little bit in trying to reply to the earlier question, that we want an open debate because we want everybody to participate, those who have something to say and those who have or think that they can contribute. Now, that meeting will not go night and day because, I mean, we will not have interpretation during night. It rarely happens unless we really make an arrangement with them, but they have to also rest because they do a fantastic job. But of course, we will limit the time of speaking because we're not going to mimic the General Assembly. So in the Council, we're a little bit more disciplined, and most of the time we follow that. But again, we think absolutely important to give the possibility to all those who would like, at the highest level, to speak on this very specific issue, given its paramount importance. Now, there are so many aspects to deal with, and of course, the point of views from different corners of the world are different and specific. But again, we would not just to have that meeting, to have a meeting, but also to really explore as much as possible also avenues on how this situation can be brought to an end and how a peace process a meaningful peace process, of course, could start. And for us, again, for Albania, that peace process respects in full the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders, because we don't see any other avenue of peace with impositions from outside. And of course, it's open to, we don't, and from my experience, I mean, leaders, we always advise them. We don't decide for them, they do. So they can speak of anything that they deem it important, but they will have 4 minutes to do so.
And on the other major issues
Oh, UNGA is the big basket. I mean, UNGA is the big basket. So UNGA goes from one corner to the other. So in UNGA you see, I mean, sometimes leaders do not respect that 15 minutes. Sometimes they speak more. So, and not always really related to the topic. But I mean, again, that's in the discretion of leaders. I think it's always important when you come to speak once a year on taking the temperature of the world and really using those minutes to really get the message across. I think that we can understand that they may have many points of view that they deem important to really be shared with the world. That's a very important, otherwise they wouldn't come in September.
But aside from Ukraine, you don't see any other major issues that will be widespread and take the spotlight?
I mean, in the Council, I said, I mean, Ukraine is just one meeting because there are other meetings. We will follow very closely what is happening in Haiti. It's a horrible situation, and the Council. I hope the Council will be able to really move on this issue. We will have one or more meetings on Sudan. We know that it's an ongoing war, a deadly war, and with no real prospects for peace. We know that the situation in Darfur is absolutely going back and reminding what has happened 20 years ago, going back to elements of genocide. So that will be also in our focus. We will be discussing Syria, and we know the complex situation related to the humanitarian assistance for northwest Syria. So, of course, the Council is never at stop. It's the only place where lights do not go out, and it's the only shop open during August. I didn't see any other office open in August besides the Security Council.
Thank you. I engaged with Ephraim.
Thank you so much, Andres. Thanks, Ambassador. You mentioned Syria. Are there any negotiations underway now for a new resolution regarding the cross-border mechanism? Last time we heard 3 weeks ago, there is apparently a deal, bilateral deal between the UN and the government, even though the trucks haven't moved yet, 3 weeks on. So are we witnessing a new arrangement whereby the approval is shifting from the Security Council to the Syrian government? What is happening on that level? Thank you.
What happened was a veto. And that veto put an end to the system that has worked since 2014. It is as unfortunate as I can say, because it lives. With that veto, we are now, and again, I'm speaking on my national capacity. With that veto, we are now, with the humanitarian situation in northeast Syria for those 4.2 million in the hands of the government. The current situation is that the Bab al-Hawa remains open. But we know also that the population there doesn't trust the government. So it's a very delicate arbitrage that needs to be made. But the first arbitrage will go with levels. And the first level is trying to do whatever can be done to help people. It's a matter of trust, as I mentioned. And again, that has to also be taken into account. But everything needs to be prioritized. And the priority is really to provide basic needs for those 4.2 million people who could not have them otherwise than through that most important border crossing, which actually processes 80 to 85% of the needs, and Crossline will never be able to compete, will never be able to meet the needs. That's why we need it open. Now, if it stays open with the consent of the government, and there is an arrangement between the UN and Damascus that helps people, we can live with that. We are unhappy, we don't want it, because it doesn't offer predictability, because they can decide one day to close it and not to give authorization. We're not yet there. I hope we'll not come there. But if we come there, then we will find ourselves into a situation that the Council needs to do something, either let the people die and those who do so take responsibility, or really do what the Council needs to do, find a solution. That's where we are so far.
Thank you. We should not discriminate those who are online. I see Pam has raised her hand to make a question. Pamela?
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you, Ambassador, for the briefing, and good luck on the month. My question is a follow-up on the 20th Security Council. Can you tell us a few details? Will there be any kind of a statement? I assume there's no product, but, and what other foreign ministers? And do you think there might be a chance to have consultations during that time about the grain deal or other issues with regard to Ukraine? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pamela. Well, as I mentioned, the meeting will be at the level of heads of delegations. If they are ministers, then ministers are welcome. I don't think that there will be consultation, at least not as the council, but I mean, different meetings, different arrangements, bilaterals or groups are not excluded, but these are not part of the presidency arrangements. There will be no product because there is no possibility yet to have a product because we have not really advanced much into bridging the big gap and divide between Ukraine and Russia, but not only. So, as I mentioned, we will use that opportunity to really hear at the highest level what world leaders think of the current state of affairs and how they see the prospects of this conflict ending as soon as possible. So this is where we are, and of course we are working. We are in touch with first the council members, but also others. We'll be publishing very soon the concept note, so you'll have the possibility to see what we are aiming at and what kind of particular issues we are suggesting for discussion. The grain deal initiative, of course, will be, I presume, will be part of the discussion. It's still in a process that is in under developments. I'm sure you had briefings before by the spokesperson of Secretary General. So what is really in the pipeline now? So the communication of Secretary General with Russia, and we still hope that the grain deal will be back or a version of it, which would allow the possibility of Ukraine, but also Russia to export grain, which is much needed in the world, and of course try to bring the food security situation in this respect back to normality.
Thank you.
Thank you, very helpful.
I will take first Yvonne and then followed by Stefano. I've seen their hands being raised since the beginning. Yvonne.
Thank you very much. Yvonne Murray, RTE News, Ireland. So I have two very quick questions. The first one on Haiti. You said that it seems likely now that that resolution will come during your time. Can I ask you for your opinion on the concerns raised by human rights groups in Kenya with regard to police brutality there and the concern about exporting brutality to Haiti? That's my first question. Second question regarding your idea for the public-private partnership alliance. I can see why there would be a desire to harness the power of the private sector, but is there a concern that the private sector, the corporations, could use the UN as a forum for self-promotion, a kind of UN washing?
Thank you very much. On Haiti, I expect, as I mentioned, a zero draft to be shared with the council members quite soon, so that we really start working onto a possible text. It's too early to anticipate what the positions of the different member states will be. I think that we have lived with anxiety the last 10 months when the situation in Haiti started to really go down as we know it now, and it has worsened since then. So everybody is, I think, happy that a country has taken the lead to a possible force that could help the national authorities in Haiti to establish law and order, to really take the territory from the hands of the gangs who are suffocating the country. So these will be first the major elements of the discussion. In the discussion of the Council and in the resolution, nothing is neglected, but I think we start from an order of priority. So that's why it's important to have a mandate of the Council of that force, so that it is really, it will not be a UN force, but UN mandated force, and that's important because it gives legitimacy to the action, and of course it's done in conformity with the host country. And on my national capacity, I would say that we are extremely attached to the human rights everywhere, and in every text that we discuss and or which we approve, we are very keen to have appropriate language on human rights and other important issues. On the second, regarding the public sector humanitarian alliance, I think it's a desire to contribute. I don't think that Google needs the UN to be promoted. I don't think that MasterCard really needs the UN. We need them. The UN needs them, I think. When I say them, their power, their ability to really save time, to raise resources. I think when it comes to saving lives, we should not refuse the cooperation of those who can really do sometimes things in a different way, much faster. But again, that will not modify the current system that we have because it is solid, that it should come as a complement and trying to really bring value added and speedy action whenever that's possible. And I can tell you that in the meetings that I've had, and I have quite a number of them explaining this idea, I have had only a positive reaction from everyone involved. So, but again, we will see what the reaction will be also from the large UN membership.
Thank you, Stefano.
Thank you, Ambassador Stefano Vaccara, La Voce di New York. Congratulations again for your these 2 years. We are almost at the end. Was the first time for Albania being in the Security Council. There is an issue that the Security Council has to deal with, that is the tension between Kosovo and Serbia. So I would like to know if this month you expect that this issue is going to be addressed. And we noticed, at least I noticed, that Albania in this year and a half, more than a year and a half, has been aligned a lot with the United States positions in the Security Council. Recently, when there was a big crisis, probably the worst crisis since '98 between Kosovo and Serbia, where NATO had to head soldiers in Kosovo, United States took a position that was actually, I guess, for the first time, went against the Kosovo government. Now, in your national capacity, what does Albania think about this position the United States take, and what it will be in the last months that we had, now for you is a few months, what Albania will do to try to improve the situation between Kosovo and Serbia? Thank you.
Now you want me to keep you day and night, because this is something I know very, very well. Let's try and do it in 1 minute. The issue of Kosovo and the mission of the United Nations in Kosovo is in the agenda of the Council. It has been 4 times, it has been reduced to 2 times, and for good reason, because the situation didn't really require 4 meetings a year. We have been advocating also to reduce it to 1, actually, because for 2 reasons. First, because not anything major was happening, and second, the Security Council doesn't really have a contribution into the process of dialogue. As you know, the process of dialogue has been transferred to Brussels, and there is a special envoy of the European Union who has been working relentlessly, especially in the last 6 months. And as you know, we have an agreement that has been reached in Brussels and then the annex of the implementation in Ohrid, where parties have almost, my reading is completely, but let's say almost, recognized each other. If that agreement is put into practice, we will not need to have any longer any meetings of the Security Council. We will not need to spend resources for the UN mission in Kosovo, and so on. Now, the positions of the United States or the European Union, I think they are part of the dealings with the parties. The United States have a high-level senior official as their special envoy for the Western Balkans, and particularly for the process of dialogue between Kosovo and Serbia. Of course, helping the process that is led by the European Union. I'm absolutely hopeful that there is no other alternative for Serbia or Kosovo to move ahead than through dialogue. through the implementation of agreements, through the implementation of the agreement reached this year in Brussels and Ohrid, because that provides the alternative for Serbia to get out of its still unfinished business with the former Yugoslavia, and for Kosovo to find its place within the Balkans, Western Balkans, within Europe, and of course to start a meaningful process of, like everybody else, if they want, and I know that they want, to integration to the European Union and to NATO. So we will not bring that issue to the Security Council because it's not any longer an issue of peace and security. For Kosovo, the issue is building institutions, advancing, improving their society, and integration in Europe and in NATO. So, and the Security Council cannot help on that.
Thank you, Ambassador. Congratulations on a well-done job during this tenure at the Security Council. I just returned from the region. Telling you the truth, I met with families of missing people, rape survivors, and it's huge disappointment and anger all over Kosovo at the international community that is continuing to appease Serbia that did cause 4 wars, genocide, mass killing, massive rape, and pressure in Kosovo to make concessions. Where does this take us? Russia through Serbia, this is what people do think, that Russia through Serbia will try to cause trouble in the Balkans, and your country is in the Balkans. Where does this take us?
Thank you, Alil. My country, again, I'm speaking on a national capacity, my country is extremely attached to peace, cooperation, development in the Western Balkans. We are the forefront of every initiative that makes our region get beyond its stigma of history, Balkanization, and really implement the best examples of cooperation, of friendship, and shared benefits like the European Union. We're close to the European Union, and we want to join the European Union. And for that, we have to do our homework, and we have to behave like Europeans so that we are accepted in large family. This applies as well to Serbia and to Kosovo, both of them. I can understand resentment. I can understand unhappiness. I can understand everything that is the consequence of a terrible war that happened. It was not a long time ago. In '99, Kosovars were put in trains and were put out of their country. It reminded really the hopeful days of the Second World War. But again, we cannot stay there. We cannot stay there. We must not forget, but we must move on. And the best way to move on is through dialogue. It can be painful. It's not easy. There are sacrifices. No one will get 100%, but there is absolutely no other alternative than to dialogue. The parties have to meet somewhere. That's why they have the best possible mediation, which is the European Union, and they have the best possible support, which is the United States and other countries who really have sacrificed, have contributed, have invested in peace and stability in the Balkans, and those investments must not be lost. So sometimes there can be pressure, sometimes there can be conditions. My country has lived through conditions for joining European Union, and we thought they were absolutely horrible. But that was the price to pay to get really closer to the European Union, to change our lives, to change our perspective, and this is what Kosovo and Serbia must do as well.
Thank you, Evelyn, and I apologize that I extended your turn.
Okay. Thank you very much. Evelyn Leopold, Globetrotter Media, Past Blue, and chair of the Dag Hammarskjöld Fund for Journalists. Are you having any meeting on West Africa? It seems not just this year, but it's prevalent this year also to have one coup after another.
It is an unfortunate situation that since 2020, so in less than 3 years, we have had 8 coups in that wider region. The latest one a few days ago. We are, on my national position, we are absolutely, fundamentally, resolutely, and in an absolutely unquestionable way against any seizure of power by force. Albania is a young democracy. We have lived 45 years under one of the most brutal dictatorships. And we know what it means to really live without freedom. And we know what it means to live with freedom as we have it now. So whenever the will of the people is not respected, whenever the institutions are not respected, wherever the rules of the game and the rule of law are not respected, we will not support it. We have seen that regional organizations have been on the forefront, and ECOWAS have been very active on every case. They have taken measures, they have imposed sanctions, they have contingency plans, including on some very specific cases, and the Security Council has welcomed those measures. We would follow and we fully concur with the position adopted by the Secretary General on every case. But also we have taken due note of the positions adopted by the African Union. I think it is clear for everyone that although there may be issues that need to be analyzed, linked to elections, linked to a function of institutions, linked to the forms of governance, military seizure and overthrowing of legitimate governments is not the solution and will never be the solution. To be very concrete now on your question, we don't have any scheduled meeting so far, but if any meeting is asked by any member, of course, we will react promptly.
Thank you. Murad?
Murad Hashim, Al Jazeera Arabic. My question on the UNIFIL mandate that extended yesterday. From now on, UNIFIL to carry out its tasks independently and without prior permission. But at the same time, it has to coordinate with the authorities. How can that be implemented? What coordinations means here? Is it mean that you just inform the authorities, or could you clarify on that?
Thank you. First, we're very happy to have a renewal of mandate. It is essential, it is crucial, it is critical to have the UN mandate and mission on the ground in Lebanon, especially in the southern part of Lebanon. There has been a lot of discussion in the Council, and of course I'm very happy that we found common ground on renewing the mandate. I think we must always, as a principle, maintain that the UN missions are free, independent, free, autonomous, and independent in carrying out the mandate, because they cannot really receive orders other than from the Security Council and from the UN through the Security Council. That's the only mandate that they have. But we also have to be cognizant of the realities on the ground. We have to be smart, because we have to, at the end of the day, what matters is to really implement the mandate. And we consider the armed forces of Lebanon as one of the pillars of stability of Lebanon. And whenever possible, whenever needed, whenever required, UNIFIL should cooperate with LAF, Lebanese Armed Forces, in order to implement the mandate. Because we do not want, there are two things that we have to harmonize. One is the ability of UNIFIL to carry out its mandate as provided by the Security Council through resolution, and the second, to also preserve the lives of the peacekeepers. We do not want those guys to be into the harm's hands or in harm way. So whenever LAF, who is in the country, can provide support, help for joint missions or whatever contingencies on the ground, that can be welcome. But UNIFIL will not ask for permission. UNIFIL will not ask for whatever instructions from anyone, but only good, smart cooperation on the ground.
Please.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Elan Bulkati from RIA Novosti News Agency. Do you expect any side events or any negotiations in some formats at the margins of the high-level week regarding the Ukraine?
Well, that's not part of the Security Council work and agenda. I'm sure there will be quite a number. There are different initiatives. Some have been announced. Some are probably into the making. There will be, for instance, one that I know that has nothing to do with the Council, and that has nothing to do just only my own country. There will be a meeting of the Group of Friends on the accountability after the aggression in Ukraine. It will be organized during the week at the level of foreign ministers. But I'm sure there will be different kind of initiatives by other countries where we are not initiating. I mentioned only the one where we have a leading role, but well, I think everything will be made public, so you might know more than I do at this stage. I'm concentrated on the Council. That's enough for me.
Yes, please.
Yeah, speaking of the Security Council summit on Ukraine, who are you expecting to speak for Russia? Because you say there will be world leaders, but I don't think Russia's leader will be coming to the UN. Thanks.
I said heads of delegation. So, and of course, it's up to Russia to be represented in the Council at the level that they deem it necessary. I don't know who will be leading the delegation of Russia, but whoever they think is appropriate to be in the Council, we will live with that. But I know that other countries will be represented at the heads of delegation, which we know are now either heads of governments or heads of state.
I see Efrem wanted to have a second question.
Thanks again. On the meeting on the 21st of September, with the League of Arab States and Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. Can you just tell us what's the thinking behind that meeting, and what are you planning to discuss, and a little bit more about it? Thank you.
As the title goes, it is an informal, interactive debate between the Council and the Troika of the Summit of the League of Arab States. And the Troika is composed of those three states that I mentioned. By the way, this is the second time that this meeting is organized. It comes out of a mandate given by a PRST, PRST is a presidential statement by the Security Council, which was adopted in 2021, and that asks the Council to organize during the high-level week an interactive dialogue at the ministerial level between the Troika and the Council. So this is the background. This is the legal justification. I expect the Council and the three countries concerned and the Secretary General of the Arab League to really discuss major issues of concern for the League of Arab States, and there are quite a number of issues of importance that they would like to go through with the Council. We will have an agenda, sort of a basic agenda, but I'm sure countries will be interested to share with the Council major issues of concern for the region.
Abdelhamid, you had the second one?
Thank you, a short one.
Okay.
Thank you. There are a number of members of the Security Council who agree to go visit the occupied Palestinian territories. However, some member states don't. What is the position of your country? Do you agree to see a delegation going from the Security Council to visit the West Bank and Gaza? Thank you.
There is an initiative. It is under discussion. There is no decision yet, and my country favors the visit of a council because we are in favor of every visit everywhere, because we think that the council visit, the missions on the ground, help the countries to really understand the realities. And sometimes you can really learn much more through a couple of hours on the ground than 100 pages of reports done by others. And I can tell you that the visit that the Council had in DRC was absolutely extremely helpful to understand the realities in the ground. And we went, of course, to Goma as well. Now, where the visit will take place, which places will be visited, I don't know that because it's still under making. But we will be, again, having a certain discussion and a position, and we'll join the position. But the position of Albania is that any visit of the Council on the ground, it can only be helpful.
Dear members of the press, we have approached 1 hour. Thank you very much for your attendance and your questions. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of the day and weekend.